Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. We've got lots of big updates on the debt ceiling, but many questions remain. So we will break all of that down for you. Also, Ron DeSantis taking his strongest shots yet at Donald Trump. Kind of interesting the way that he is attacking him. So we will play those comments for you as well. Also, some pretty interesting revelations about ChatGPT and just how it just invents stuff all the time.
All the time.
Like way more than maybe you thought, certainly more than I thought. So we'll dig into that. We also have some new numbers about where jobs are moving within the United States and, of course, workers along with them. And some new comments from Jake Tapper about Joe Biden's poll numbers, which are kind of astonishing. So that is all very interesting. But before we get to any of that, this is officially our last week in this particular set in this studio.
It's sad. It's sad. It's gonna be hard to say goodbye to this desk after we designed it ourselves, Krystal, and shepherded it. This entire set. There's a lot of emotions flying through the studio, but we're really excited for what comes next. Thank you to the premium members who've been helping us out. As we've said, we recently got a delivery of the largest television that the world has ever seen. Nobody can
really
believe that these
genuinely
TVs,
is insane.
I can't even believe it looking at these boxes. You guys are the ones who are helping us pay for it. It's the biggest expense ever in the history of our company. So thank you all so much who are signing up and helping us support us at this time. It's breakingpoints.com if you're able to. And then, of course, it's also Memorial Day. So don't want to let that pass without taking just a moment or something. If you know somebody who either lost someone or you actually are somebody who lost someone, thinking about you and that person on this day. So think about that just for a bit before you go and enjoy your Memorial Day.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. But also hope that you are enjoying your
do
Memorial Day out there. So do both of those things.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to the very latest of what we know about the debt ceiling. There is a tentative deal that has been reached between Biden and Kevin McCarthy. I'll give you the details of that in just a moment. Important to keep in mind, though, that they've got to sell this deal to the Democrats and maybe most dicily, that's not really a word, but you guys know what I'm trying to say.
We'll make it work.
To the Republican caucus, a number of whom have already come out and said, like, hell no, this is horrible, this is disgusting, et cetera, et cetera. Let's take a listen, though, to start with how President Biden was selling this deal to the press yesterday. Take a listen.
And the agreement also represents a compromise, which means no one got everything they want. But that's the responsibility of governing. So if you want to try to make it look like I made some compromise in the debt ceiling, I didn't. I made a compromise on the budget.
That's what they wanted, is you to make a compromise on the budget, and that's what you've done, even though you haven't gone as far as they wanted. Isn't that right?
Sure, yeah. Well, can you think of an alternative? I think he negotiated with me in good faith. He kept his word. He said what he would do. He did what he said he'd do. And I have no idea whether he had the votes. I expect he does.
No idea whether McCarthy has the votes. I expect he does. Nobody got everything they wanted. There was a lot of cope in there about them being like, well, you said you weren't going to negotiate, and now you're negotiating. He's like, I didn't negotiate at all. This is on the budget, not the debt ceiling. Okay, dude, whatever. Yeah. So we still don't have all the details of this tentative agreement. So, but we have some of the outlines here, top lines. Here's Jeff Stein's reporting from the Washington Post. Go ahead and put this up on the screen. So he says, summary of deal as I understand it. Again, important caveats because nobody has all of the specifics yet. Debt ceiling raised for 2 years, so gets Joe Biden past the next election. Domestic programs frozen next year and then up 1% in 2025. So it's an inflation-adjusted cut that was more along the lines of what Democrats were pushing for, Joe Biden was pushing for. It does lift defense spending and also Veterans Affairs money. There is some tightening of work requirements on TANF, which is the welfare program, and SNAP, which is food stamps. Energy permitting, details to be determined. I think Joe Manchin got his pipeline deal in there. Claw back some new IRS dollars, but not as far as Republicans had originally floated. He goes on to say work requirement for food stamps moves from age 50 to age 54, trying to get more clarity on TANF. Sorry, I'm not sure. We'll update when I learn more details. My understanding is the energy permitting changes are very minimal. Go ahead to the next piece here, some additional small details. Remember, one of the things that Republicans were pushing for was to end the student loan debt forgiveness program. He says there is a student loan provision as well. The agreement, as I understand it, codifies into law the administration's existing plan to end forbearance so payments will restart. Theoretically, if there is another emergency, they could, again, enact a moratorium. no change to Biden's student debt cancellation program. He goes on to say, I'll be watching very carefully to what precisely happened to the portion of the federal government that covers anti-poverty programs over 2 years in inflation-adjusted terms. It could look like a more significant cut than flat funding suggests. Interesting, we actually have gotten some more details about the SNAP cuts in particular. It's not even clear that it will be an overall cut to the program, because while they are tightening up work requirements for people aged 50 to 54, they are eliminating work requirements for people who are homeless and also for veterans. So you're sort of just shifting who is eligible for SNAP without work requirements. So it's not even apparent that that is a cut across the board. So Matt Iglesias, I think, had a good analysis. And then, Saagar, I want to get your view of all of this as well. Put this up on the screen from his Substack. He says, I thought this was maybe the best line. Yeah. If you ignore everything about the circumstances of how this came together, it's really not a bad deal. In particular, the big GOP win here is they forced Biden to agree to flat, nominal discretionary spending for 1 year, and then a 1% nominal increase the year after that, which is a significant cut in inflation-adjusted per capita or GDP terms. But, and this is the key point, that's something Republicans could and would have gotten through the normal appropriations process anyway. He goes on to say, by giving Republicans a policy win in this way, rather than through the normal appropriations, that's the budgeting process, Biden has validated the debt ceiling hostage tactic that meaningfully increases the odds of a future substantive disaster, either in terms of policy concessions or a breach. So overall, as I look at this, Saagar, first of all, it's sort of enraging that we have this whole potential global crisis catastrophe, which, by the way, has already had real economic impact and probably increased our government's borrowing costs and injected all of this uncertainty and chaos and disaster, et cetera, for something they could have gotten through normal
3
means.
months ago, also.
And so I certainly blame the Republicans for using these tactics, which I think are disgraceful and should be out of bounds. And I certainly blame the Biden administration for giving into these tactics. And I think Iglesias is exactly right here that, okay, if you ignore everything else, you can be like, it's not, it could be a lot worse. It could, could have been much steeper cuts that hurt a lot more people and also did harm to the economy. But what you're doing is validating this tactic so you can bet 2 years down the line, they're going to do the same thing all over again.
Yeah, and right. So 2 years from now, we'll see what happens. But, on its face, for the quote-unquote merits of the deal, we'll save some more of this analysis. But this is a huge loss for Kevin McCarthy and maybe not Kevin McCarthy. It is a massive loss for the Freedom Caucus members, of which they are making it known. And on its face, for Joe Biden, I think this would be a victory for him, because he can both look. I think we both also know that there is a fetishization of bipartisanship for a lot of voters. For some reason, they think it's a very good thing. It can be, it can't be. It depends on how we talk about it.
It depends on the details.
It's all about the nuance, right? So bipartisan rail safety, good. Bipartisan feigning concern about the deficit while you increase military spending and aid to Ukraine. Yeah, maybe I'm just going to go ahead and say that's bad. And that's what's happened here. But, Biden gets the rhetorical win of I negotiated. He didn't really give away the store. There are not really meaningful cuts. If you are a genuine economic libertarian type, this is ludicrous. If you're looking at this, if you're somebody who cares about the debt, even on the IRS piece, which was a huge thing, they are only able to claw back apparently some 20 billion or so of the 40 billion. And with that 20, what they're going to do is they're just going to defer the spending cuts in the future. So they'll just still be fully funded for a shorter period of time. It actually won't meaningfully change IRS enforcement at all. This is another thing I was getting so annoyed by, because they are correct in saying that the IRS disproportionately targets, people who are poor. I've done entire monologues about this. What I've always advocated for is that there's actually a simple change in the law you can make, which is say, don't use this funding to go below anybody over $1 million or so. And of course, they never want to insert these programs. So the entire thing is just ridiculous to me. What makes it especially offensive is that they are not only increasing military spending, but specifically trying to increase some of the backwards aid to Ukraine, in terms of refilling stockpiles and helping with the depreciation costs. And they're hiding all these other nonsense provisions in there, which are basically just box checks for things that they say that they're against on paper, like the IRS, and they didn't even do that. So overall, the deal itself, it's not going to change much. I mean, I guess it's good for everybody's stock for 401ks. Now, this is all presumes if it passes.
Right. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.